A name is a powerful thing. It reveals something deeper about the place it refers to. It holds history and a wealth of meaning. So do you know where Toronto's name comes from? This river was once a key source of food and travel for the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat people. From Lake Ontario to Lake Huron, it supported game, trade, and the livelihoods of these nations for centuries. The fish were so plentiful, a large fishing weir was built at the mouth of Lake Simcoe. Each nation called the weir by a different name, but it was the Mohawks who called them Toronto, where there are trees in the water. In the early 1700s, the French and English settlers used the word as the name of Lake Simcoe. After years of clerical errors on maps of the area, the word was anglicized and given to an area at the mouth of the Humber River. When the town of York was established, Lieutenant General John Graves Simcoe refused to name the town after an indigenous word. Years later, when the city was incorporated, it was renamed Toronto. What are you acknowledging when you acknowledge this land? You're acknowledging that the very name of this city was taken from the Mohawk language and stripped of its meaning and history. One of the country's greatest cities, disconnected from its origins. We acknowledge its true history.
In 1787, Sir John Johnston, the Superintendent General of the Indian Department, held a private meeting with Mississauga chiefs near the Bay of Quinte. Accounts of the promises made between the parties during this meeting have conflicted for generations, but eventually a deal was struck between Johnston and the chiefs. The Toronto Purchase was made. When years of border disputes between the Mississaugas and British threatened to escalate into violence, the British discovered that the deed of sale from Johnston was blank. It had no description of the land purchased by the Crown, no account of the amount paid for it, and the marks of the chiefs that agreed to the sale were attached on completely separate pieces of paper. It was an invalid treaty, and the land still rightfully belonged to the Mississauga Nation.
This land has been marked by tragedy since contact with European settlers. Wabakanin, a Mississauga chief in the late 1700s, was well respected by his people and the British, recognized as an accomplished diplomat and warrior. After a day of trading with the British at York, he and a small group of his people camped near Sugar Beach. That night, a Queen's Ranger, Charles McEwen, and his companions set upon Wabakanin's sister. Wabakanin's wife called out for his help. He confronted the men, desperately trying to fight them off. Before help could arrive, McEwen and his companions assaulted his wife and fled the scene. They both passed the next day and were buried before any of the British had seen their bodies. Wabakanin's murder sent shockwaves through the Mississauga Nation. They demanded justice.